Hello, Booktube, and welcome back. Well, we're almost at the end of October now. I can't believe how fast this year is going. Uh, so, like I did the end of last month, September, I'm going to do a look back video. Uh, so I'm going to look at books I read in this particular month a year ago, 5 years ago, and 10 years ago. So that would be October 2015, October 2020, and October 2024. Can't remember what year it was. And just see what I think about the book, whether my opinion of it has changed, whether I remember the book anyway. Uh, you know, see if the rereads change or any of that kind of good stuff. And I'm doing this through Goodreads. I didn't start using Goodreads until about 2018, 19. I mean, I put some books that I read on Goodreads, but I didn't commit myself fully to Goodreads until about 2018. But I've got some books on some earlier years, so we'll just see what I read. Oh, and by I can just see him running about. My dog is just barking its head off. He'll make himself heard, no doubt, because the neighbour's dogs are out, and the neighbour's cat is also on the back fence, so he's getting attacked from both sides. So I'm sure you'll hear him during the course of the video. So let's begin. Let's go back to October 2015 and letting Goodreads load. Okie dokie. So it looks like I actually did a reread of The Towers of Midnight. This is Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. I think this is one of the books that Brandon Sanderson had to finish. This is book 13, 14. I keep on getting mixed up because I keep on having the prequel trilogy as number one. I think it's book 13, isn't it? So this is the second to last of the Wheel of Time, and it is, I think it's Tom and Matt going into and trying to rescue Moraine from these lizards that like to drink off of magic, and also the build up for the next book, which is the last battle against the Dark One. Towers of Midnight, I thought was okay. It was good. I think The Gathering Storm, which is the first one Brandon Sanderson had to do after Robert Jordan died, I think out of the three he did, that was the strongest. I really enjoyed The Gathering Storm. Towers of Midnight, okay, and I'm still undecided what I think about Memory of Light, because the majority of it, I think half of it is basically the Great Battle in it. That's just one big chapter. Well, Towers of Midnight is okay. It's certainly a lot better than some of the later books that Robert Jordan wrote, i.e. Crossroads to Twilight. Did not like Crossroads to Twilight at all. Oh, awful fantasy book. So I only read two. Apparently that's been logged on Goodreads, and the second one is Lords and Ladies. This is a Discworld novel. I absolutely love Discworld. It's one of if not my favourite fantasy series of all time. I do love that comic slant that Terry Pratchett put on it. Lords and Ladies is one of the earlier of the Discworld series. I think it was after Small Gods, wasn't it? So we're looking at books 14, 15, 16 out of the Discworld main series is 40 or 41 books, I can't remember. So Lords and Ladies is all about it's like a riff on A Midsummer's Night Dream by Shakespeare, where the elves are coming back and the witches have got to fight them back. Discworld is like chopped up into like different character arcs. So Lords and Ladies belongs within the witches. So you've got Granny Weatherwax, you've got Nanny Ogg, and you've got Magrat. And they combined to fight back against the elves. Lords and Ladies, fantastic book. I think I love all the Witcher series. I think even the YA ones that came out later about Tiffany, I thought they were quite good as well. And it's just all full of puns and satire. I'm a really big fan of Discworld, so you're not going to get any nays from me Maybe Unseen Academicals is probably the worst of the Discworld, and that's about football. I'm a football fan. Or soccer for you Americans. So that's only two that I read in October 2015. So let's jump 5 years ahead to 2020. Where do we begin here? I'm just loading it up. Okie dokie, let's start from here. Horizon. Horizon is a non-fiction book. Who's the author? Barry Lopez, I think. This is very much like a travel log of. He's an explorer and he's just going all over the place. Very much in the same kind of vein as Robert McFarlane. He's very good at making non-fiction writing lyrical and dancing and nice. And this is basically a travelogue. And I'm looking at it now. I rated it. I hate the Goodreads rating system. 4 stars, whatever that means. I think it's about a 4-star. From what I remember, I've not read it again for 5 years, but I enjoyed it. I enjoy travelogues anyway, or adventure books, telling a bit about the land and all that kind of good stuff. So, I also read the Full Metal Alchemist mangas. This is a 3-in-1. It was volume 9. I believe volume 9 is the last. So this is when the Eldrick brothers are back into the city centre to fight against the big bad and try and reclaim one of the brothers' bodies. Because he's just like a ghost in a giant tin can, and he wants to rescue his brother's body so he can live and be like a human again. I love Full Metal Alchemist. It's probably my favourite of the mangas. It's by Arakawa Hiromo. I'm sorry. I think I got it right. Full Metal Alchemist. I love all of them. Full Metal is great. If you're into manga and you've not read Full Metal, go and do yourself a favour and go and read Full Metal. Especially if you say Death Note is my favourite manga. Go to bed. Death Note's awful. Well, the first 3 are alright. The second 3 are woefully bad. Oh, I'm talking about the Black series of volumes in Death Note. Only half of them are good. But Full Metal Alchemist is fantastic. I also read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and this is a very famous book, isn't it? It's a no likable characters. Very much up my street. I thought it was probably out of all the Bronte sisters, is probably my favourite book of them. It's all about like hate, love, revenge between what's the name? Heathcliff and I'm blanking on the name. It's a Catherine. But it's told through the eyes of like this guy called Lockwood or something like that, isn't it? I'm forgetting the names, but that's the general gist of it. Of just them just having a horrible relationship, and it's all set in the Yorkshire Dales, so it's all, dark, danky, and working class. In fact, but I really enjoyed Wuthering Heights. I think it's really good. And if you're a classic reader, go and pick up Wuthering Heights. You'll love it. It's a really good piece of work. I also read The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second book of the Age of something or other. What is it? It's not war. That's too obvious. I think it's madness. I think it's the Age of Madness, isn't it? So, yeah. I don't know if you can hear him. He's starting to kick off now. So this is the second book of the Age of Madness, I think, and it's okay. I prefer Joe Abercrombie's first Law trilogy with Logan. Is it Logan or Logan or something like that? And the Wizard Magnus and Glocker. Glocker's my favourite of those characters. But the second series, I didn't really. It's more like set in the Industrial Revolution. The second series of this, and if you don't know, it's a fantasy series, and I thought it was okay. I remember just being disappointed with it, and I've given it 4 and a bit stars. I think I ranked it a bit low. It's a bit under 4 stars, whatever that means, And I was disappointed in the second trilogy of the First Law universe. Next, I read In the Valleys of the Noble Beyond, In Search of the Sasquatch by John Zada. Now, I wanted just your bog standard Bigfoot book, nothing serious, maybe a bit of a giggle along the way. This book takes itself way too seriously, into the point where you just like you sometimes bored half of the way, and you expect that you just want a Bigfoot book, something like easy reading. This book wasn't easy reading, and it wasn't what I thought it would be, and I put 4 stars down here. I'm going to take it down to 2. It wasn't my cup of tea at all. I wanted a fun ride through Bigfoot territory. You don't get this, and you don't get that in this book. This is very like a serious take on the Bigfoot. So that's In the Valleys of the Noble Beyond. Next, I read The End of All Things by John Scalise. This is the final, I think, of the Old Man's War. I remember only really liking the first of the Old Man's War, but true to form, it's the kind of person I am. I will finish the whole series, even if I don't like it. But it's not that bad, it's a middling 3.5 out of 5 stars, whatever that means. So this is where it's what's the agency called who are trying to combat the aliens? I can't remember. I think it begins with C or something like that. And it's all about those aliens trying to bypass them and talk to people on Earth and all that good stuff. Fighting in space battles and all that stuff. I just remember the later books in the Old Man series is a bit naff. A bit like, oh, here we go. But the first Old Man's War book can pretty much stand alone by itself. I thought it was really good science fiction. I also read Snuff this year. This is on the latest, I think it's the second to the last one before he died, of Discworld, Snuff. Terry Pratchett's again. This is where I said before that Discworld are focused on different character arcs, and Snuff is part of the Night Watch series, which is my favourite of all the Discworld character arcs. Sam Vines, they're kind of like constables, police officers, and they're trying to make a lawless place, a bit more lawful. And Snuff is about the commander of the Night Watch, Sam Vines. He goes on vacation, and then he runs into murders and stuff like that, and persecution of the goblins, and it's all about getting goblin rights and all that kind of good stuff. Typical Terry Pratchett though on top of it. I really enjoyed Snuff. I know a lot of people say the Discworld later books are not as good as some of the early ones. I say nay to that. I did enjoy Snuff. And you got the Most Fun Lipstick series as well, which is a really good series. But Snuff is really good. I enjoyed Snuff, so I've ranked it 4 out of 5 here. That's fine. 4 out of 5. I'll let it remain. I also read a science fiction novel, The Fall of Hyperon, which is by Dan Simmons, which I think is the second of the Hyperon series. Hyperon series is really good, really philosophical sci-fi, where they travel in time. Each character travels in time, and I think this one is where they're approaching the time tombs, and each character have got to go through their own arc to stop this massive war, which is going to eventually happen, and the death of billions and stuff like that. Really good science fiction. All of the Hyperon series. I can't remember what the series is. I think the series is just called Hyperon, I think, innit? I'm a fan of all of them. I put this particularly one 4 out of 5 stars, or whatever that means. Could be 4, 4.5, something like that. The Hyperon series is really good. I think the first is still the best. And I also read, I've lost my space, Moonflower Murders by Anthony Horowitz. trying to remember the different ones now from this series. This is the second book. I think it's the one with the owl on the front cover in the UK. I think it's when the publisher is living in Greece at the time, and nothing's working out, and then all of a sudden people come and explain to her that things are not right at home, and someone died. Where the first book, see, I'm trying to remember the actual plot line now. It's very much she's got to go back to where she came from and solve a murder in the same place that the first book is written. I think very meta. The first and I don't think I read the first. The first and second are very meta. They don't follow like a simple murder mystery plot line. But overall, I still think it's a good read. It's the first one delves in and out of real life, and then the writer's writings basically, and that's pretty much the theme of the second one as well. Fairly okay. I do like a good bog standard murder mystery. Probably won't be 3.5, whatever that means. Whatever. Okay, and I also read this month Entangled Life: How Fungi Make Our Worlds, Change Our Minds, and Shape Our Futures. This is by Merlin, what a name, Sheldrake. I've got the book upstairs. I think I showed it to one of the book tours that I did. This is fantastic. I rated it 5 there. I rated it 5 now. This is all about how fungi, is one of the fundamental biological life forms on the planet, and how it does its cool stuff. To the where it affects different insects, where it's got medicinal effects, and how it communicates with each other through forests and stuff like that, and how big they can get, and how the mushroom community all talk to each other, and how they also help other life forms like trees and stuff like that, and also the negative effects of some mushrooms. This book is brilliant. If you're into your nature writing, pick this up. Entangled Life, you can't go wrong. It's a really, really good book. Okay, so that's what I read in 2020. So let's jump to what I read October 2024, last year. Okay, so the first one here is The Rebels Clinic: The Revolutionary Lives of Frantz Fanon. This is by Adam Schatz, not so good of a name. So this is looking at the revolutionary, what's his name, Frantz. He was a Algerian, wasn't he? Or was he part of the French Empire? And it's just basically a story from the French occupation up to World War II with Vichy France, and then his change of heart where he becomes more independently minded, and then all his hardships following that kind of curve. This is a really well done biography of Frantz Fanon, and for 5 stars here. It's worth 5 stars. If you're into your racial non-fiction, civil rights non-fiction, pick this up. Really good read. I also read Revolution. This is Indonesia and the Birth of the Modern World, another World War II kind of themed book here. This is by David van Rijbroek. This is looking at how Indonesia got its independence. So it's the struggles that I had with the Dutch Empire, and then the absolutely sheer brutality of the Japanese occupation during the Second World War, and then the eventual Dutch coming back in and trying to regain control, which turned out to be an absolutely bloody mess, which that was all squared out by the UN, and Indonesia became independent from the Dutch. Again, this is a fantastic work of history. This another 5-star read, great. Everybody should read it up if you're interested in colonialization. Just Earth history, really, isn't it? Pick it up. It's a really good book. I also read The Adventure Zone, Volume 6, The Suffering Game. I think this is the second to last one now. I don't think the last one is out yet. It's just kind of a comic graphic novel, like a D&D kind of setting. And what the main characters are going to go through and capture really valuable things, like sources of great power, and then bring them back. And this one's set in a carnival. It's comedy through and through with a bit of spots of, oh, that's nice. And this series is really good. It hasn't fell off a cliff yet, and hopefully the last one won't. I've put it 4 out of 5 stars, 4 out of 5 stars. It remains. It's a good book. Next, there's another World War II themed book. This is Judgment at Tokyo, World War II and the Trial of the Making of Modern Asia. This is by Gary J. Bass. So this is look at the Japanese after they were defeated. So the trials and courts that they had to go through, like the Germans did in Nuremberg. Because everybody knows what Nuremberg is, but nobody really thinks of what the Japanese also had their trials as well, which several of the top flight got executed. Not the head of the snake, Emperor Hirohito. He escaped persecution because the Americans wanted to keep him alive, because they thought if they killed him, the whole of Japan will unravel and it would join the communists. So he got off kind of scot-free, even though he did dictate a lot of the horrible things that the Japanese did during their occupation of Manchuria. And it's always about what the Japanese did, prisoners of war and all that kind of like gruesome stuff. And this is a big book. It's like over 1,000 pages long. But I've never read anything about the Japanese trials before, and this is fantastic work. And it's also about how the judges all came together from different parts of the world, and how they butted heads and didn't agree with each other, and how to persecute these Japanese politicians and generals and all that kind of stuff. But still, very good book. Really, really great. 5 stars I put in here. I also read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Do I need to describe to you what Frankenstein is? Everybody should know it. I think I was being a bit too nice to Frankenstein here. I remember being kind of bored through a lot of Frankenstein. Because I put 4 stars here. I might knock that down to 3 stars, to be honest with you. It's good, don't get me wrong. I didn't think it was slightly boring. I didn't think it was crap. But I thought I'd get something more out of it. Because I think I read Dracula by Bram Stoker at the same time here, and I was more disappointed in that than I was in Frankenstein. But, it's a classic, isn't it? Next, I read Pale Blue Dot, a vision of Carl Sagan and a human future in space. 4.5 stars, still 4.5 stars. Love Carl Sagan. He's a physicist, if you don't know. This is pretty much a look at space and our where we stand within space, basically, and hope the future aspirations of the space program and everything that we can possibly do. I think this was written in the 1990s or 1980s, so it's a little bit dated, but it's still great. It's Carl Sagan, and Carl Sagan can absolutely write. I do love a bit of Carl Sagan. I also read Why Can't I? It's broken. No! Hang on, folks. It's crashed. I can't scroll up. Here we go. Sorry about the wait. When did I talk about this? Did I talk about this on Sunday? I must have been on a bit of a classic kick. I also read Moby Dick. Thought Moby Dick was so boring. The American classic. Again, I don't have to there he is again. I don't have to describe to you what Moby Dick is. You know, it's a very famous book about Captain Ahab and the whale. And, you know, his vendetta against this demon, Leviathan of the waters. I rated it 2 stars here. I think I've got to rate it 2 stars again. I was not a big fan of Moby Dick. I think Moby Dick's one of those classic books where you're either a fan or not a fan. I'm very much like, don't really want to read that ever again. I also read Into the Narrow Dark. This is, I think, it's the 3rd book of The Last King of Osternard, and I'm not sure if the 4th book has come out yet. Not 100%. Oh, it has. It has, hasn't it? Yes, it has. This is by Tad Williams, another fantasy series. Again, this is a slow burn of a fantasy series, so this is not on the Joe Abercrombie or Mark Lawrence or anything like Game of Thrones. This is very much a slow burn fantasy. This is about reclaiming his homeland after his dad was usurped, captured, and tortured and stuff like that. The Prince Morgaine, I think his name is, with his little troll friend. Into the Narrow, all good. I do love Last King of Osternard, and I do like the trilogy that preceded this as well. I know the Green Angel Tower is the last book, but I can't remember the series it's called at the top of my head. I do love a bit of Tad Williams. You just got to remember, all the books are a bit chunky and they are slow burns, but I think you get a lot out of them. I really enjoy Tad Williams. Oh dear. Not this one, but I just saw the one above it. So I also read Oathbringer. This is the Stormlight Archive, book number 3. This must have been a reread. You see, so Oathbringer I read in September 2020, and this is, again, I read it last year, so it is a reread. Stormlight Archive is a fantasy series by Brandon Sanderson, and right now it's 5 books out of 10 that he's going to write. Each book is over 1,000 pages long. Don't know why it needs to be over 1,000 pages long, but it does. The first 2 of the Stormlight Archive I absolutely love. The Way of Kings and The Words of Radiance I think is really good. I think Oathbringer goes a bit slow. You know, they've got a battle towards the end and all that kind of good stuff. But I remember, like, oh, okay, maybe this is the dip in the series, and I was wrong. The dip continues. Rhythm of War is the next one, and then what's book 5? Words and Truth, Sword and Truth, Winds and Truth, something like that. The Sanderson fans would be like, the book 4 was completely boring, and in book 5 you can see where he's going. He's making his version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where you had to read all his books to get all the references and all that kind of magic stuff, you know. And I kind of guessed where the book was going as well, so I thought it was a bit predictable. But Oathbringer was the start of that downward spiral, I think, in the Stormlight Archive. But on the surface of it, it's still an okay fantasy. It's all right. It's okay. The first 2 books, are great. Not so much the rest. And why is all the books going to be? I'm waffling. Why's all the books going to be 1,000 pages long? Because they need to be, Alex. They need to be. And the last book that I read last year, and the last book that I'll be discussing today, is Naked Empire. This is by Terry Goodking, and this is a fantasy book which is part of the Sword of Truth. Is it the Sword of Truth? It is the Sword of Truth, isn't it? Yeah. And this is one of the later ones, book 9 or 10. If you watch one of my earlier Booktube videos, I made a list of the worst fantasy I've ever read, and the Sword of Truth is on it. Like I said earlier, even when I don't like a book in a series, I'll just keep on going and going and going until I completed the series. I know I'm unwell. And what I remember of this series, Sword of Truth, I thought the first one, Wizard's First Rule, was okay, middling fantasy, all right. And the second and third book I thought was okay, so it's Stone of Tears or something like that. And then book 4, right into the mountain. I absolutely hated book 4, and I hate the end. If anybody who's read book 4, so you know what I'm talking about. And then books 5 till 10, 11, 12. It's the same story again and again and again and again. Richard, the main character, he is never wrong. He's the all-powerful oracle. And the whole story, every single book is a different kind of like, Richard is separated with his wife Kaelin. Kaelin gets in trouble. Richard's got to save her, and Richard is always right. And I think Naked Empire is where, let me get this right, I think Richard is poisoned, and he can get the medicine to defeat to stop the poison, and at the same time his empire that he's created. Tangent. This book, he's supposed to be the good, holy, but he's a complete fascist in this book. He thinks it's a good idea just to kill innocent people, and you're supposed to nod your head and agree with this. And he uses the author Terry Goodking uses Richard as his own personal megaphone, just to spout his own libertarian beliefs. I hate this series. I can't even remember what I was talking about now. So yeah, Richard has been poisoned, and his empire is starting to come apart, and the bad guys offer him his medicine and to hold what he's got, and the only thing he's got to do is give up his wife. Bad books. I wouldn't even suggest reading the first 3 books that I like. If you like anything like me, where it doesn't matter, you've got to complete the series. Don't read The Sword of Truth. It's awful, and the writing's terrible, and it's repetitive. Seriously, you get those books where you read a page, and then a few pages later, oh, that's the same kind of stuff that I just read in the last chapter. Paragraph after paragraph, it's repeated over and over again. These books are terrible. I hate them, man. I should do like my own little just one video on The Sword of Truth, and I'll just rant. I'll just rant for longer than this video's lasted. Anyway, this is what I read. I shouldn't have closed all those windows down. That's what I read, last year, 5 years ago and 10 years ago in October. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you've got any questions about any of those books, just pop them down below. I'll see you soon, Booktube. Bye.